I had always dreamt of a fresh start in a new city, but reality hit harder than I expected. My name is Emma, and just 2 weeks ago I moved to New York City, a place I thought would be filled with endless opportunities and excitement. The skyscrapers, the bustling streets, and the energy of it all seemed so thrilling when I first imagined it. But now, standing in the middle of the crowded street, I felt utterly small. I didn't know anyone here. The city felt like a maze, and I was lost somewhere in the middle of it all. The moment I stepped out of my apartment, everything seemed alien. The endless sea of people rushing by with a purpose, the blaring horns of yellow taxis, the towering buildings that felt like they were closing in on me. It was overwhelming. I had no friends here, no family, just me and a phone full of apps I didn't know how to use. I thought the excitement of a new adventure would carry me through, but the truth was I felt isolated, vulnerable, and like an outsider in a city that never seemed to slow down. I tried to navigate my way around, but every turn felt like I was going further in the wrong direction. I thought I had memorized the map in my head, but every street looked the same. I glanced at my phone for directions, but the GPS kept rerouting me, leaving me feeling even more lost. At one point, I stopped to take a breath, leaning against a lamppost trying to collect myself. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe this wasn't the fresh start I'd hoped for. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this life. After all, it was in that moment, standing alone in the middle of a busy street, that a stranger approached me. "Are you lost?" the voice asked, pulling me out of my thoughts. I looked up, startled to see a man standing in front of me, smiling. I was unsure how to respond. Did I look that lost? But something in his expression made me pause, something genuine, a spark of kindness in this sea of unfamiliar faces. "Yes," I replied, hesitating. "I'm just trying to figure out how to get to, well, anywhere, really." He chuckled lightly, and to my surprise he said, "I can show you around if you'd like." And just like that, the city that had felt like an impersonal, cold place suddenly seemed a little less lonely. His offer was so unexpected that I almost didn't know how to respond. I stood there for a moment, staring at him as if trying to read his face for any hint of insincerity, but there was none. His smile was warm, his eyes kind, and something in his demeanor felt genuine. It wasn't the kind of interaction you usually have with strangers in New York City where everyone is too busy to stop and help. "Are you sure I don't want to trouble you?" I asked, still skeptical. He shrugged nonchalantly, as if showing someone around the city was just part of his daily routine. "It's no trouble. I've been living here for a while, so I know the city well. Besides, you seem like you could use a little company." It's easy to get lost in the chaos here. I hesitated for a second longer, then nodded. What did I have to lose? I was already feeling lost in so many ways, physically, emotionally, mentally. Maybe this stranger could offer me a glimpse of the city I had only seen through the screens of travel blogs and social media posts. Maybe, just maybe, this moment of unexpected kindness was the universe telling me to open up, to let go of the fear and uncertainty that had been weighing on me since I arrived. We started walking together, and I couldn't help but feel a little curious about him. He introduced himself as Jack, and I learned that he had been living in New York for almost 5 years. "I'm originally from a small town in Ohio," he said, his voice carrying a hint of nostalgia. "Moving here was a huge change, but I love it. There's always something new to discover." As we walked, he pointed out little details about the city that I had never noticed before. "Look at that street mural. Did you know it changes every few months? Artists come from all over the world to paint here." I turned to look, and sure enough, a large, colorful mural covered the side of a building bursting with vibrant colors and abstract shapes. His enthusiasm was contagious, and for the first time since I had moved, I started to feel like maybe I could make this city my home. Jack showed me hidden gems, tiny coffee shops tucked between towering buildings, secret alleyways that led to cozy bookstores and rooftops with panoramic views of the skyline. Everywhere we went, he shared a piece of the city that felt personal, as if he was letting me into a secret world that only locals knew. It was strange how comfortable I felt with him, despite knowing so little about him. We talked about everything: life dreams, regrets, and the challenges of living in a place as fast-paced and demanding as New York. It was the kind of conversation you might have with a close friend, not a stranger. But Jack's easygoing nature made it feel natural, and I found myself opening up in a way I hadn't done with anyone in years. By the time we reached a small park near the river, I realized that I wasn't just seeing the city in a new light, I was seeing myself in a new light, too. Maybe I wasn't just some lost soul wandering the streets. Maybe I was capable of finding my way, of creating my own path in this city that had felt so overwhelming just hours ago. And maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought I was. In the days that followed, I found myself meeting Jack almost every day. What had started as a simple gesture of kindness had blossomed into something unexpected, an unlikely friendship. Every time we met, he would take me to a new part of the city, showing me places that seemed to exist just beneath the surface of New York's fast-paced, chaotic exterior. Each day brought a new discovery, a fresh perspective, and with it a growing sense of belonging that I hadn't felt since I left home. We wandered through neighborhoods I would never have explored on my own, hidden cafes, tucked in corners, quiet streets lined with old brownstones and secret gardens hidden from the world. He always seemed to know the best spots, places that didn't make it onto tourist maps or in travel guides. Jack had a way of seeing the city with fresh eyes, and it was contagious. With each place we visited, I began to feel like I was unraveling a part of myself I didn't even know was lost. It wasn't just the city that was becoming familiar. It was Jack himself. Despite our differences, he was a native New Yorker, and I was a newcomer from a small town. We found an easy connection. He was always patient listening as I spoke about my life, my struggles with adjusting to this new chapter. I shared my fears, my loneliness, and the constant feeling of being a stranger in my own skin. Jack never judged. Instead, he would smile, nod, and offer stories from his own experiences. In return, I found myself offering pieces of myself, small details about my past, about why I moved to New York, and my deep-rooted desire to find a place to call home. One afternoon, as we sat on the steps of a quiet park near the East River, Jack shared something personal with me. He told me about his own struggles when he first moved to the city, how he felt lost, disconnected, and unsure of his place. He had spent weeks wandering, unsure of whether New York would ever feel like home, but it was the people he met along the way, strangers who helped him in small yet meaningful ways, that made him realize that sometimes the key to finding your place is simply allowing others to help you. Sometimes, he said, looking out at the river, it's the moments you least expect that can change everything. A simple conversation, a gesture of kindness. It can make you realize you're not alone. His words struck me deeply, and in that moment, I realized how much of my journey in the city had been about letting go of my fear and learning to accept the kindness of others. I had spent so much time resisting the idea of being helped, of relying on others. But Jack's presence had changed that. Through him, I saw that vulnerability didn't have to be weakness. It could be strength. It was through accepting the help of someone like Jack that I began to find a sense of peace in this overwhelming city. As the weeks passed, I began to feel more at ease in New York. I had a routine now, a sense of direction I explored on my own, but I also knew that Jack would always be there, a constant in a world that was still foreign to me. Our friendship, born out of a simple act of kindness, had become something I never expected. It was rare to find such a connection, especially in a city as vast and impersonal as New York. Yet, here I was with someone who had become a part of my life in ways I couldn't fully explain. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't just existing, I was living. Looking back, I realized that meeting Jack wasn't just about finding my way around the city. It was about finding my way back to myself, and that I knew was the greatest gift of all. It was a bright Saturday afternoon when the unexpected happened. Jack and I were walking through Central Park, a usual weekend ritual by now. The trees were in full bloom and the park was buzzing with energy, people picnicking, children running around, and the faint sound of street musicians filling the air. It was one of those perfect days that made everything feel right. Jack was telling me about his favorite childhood memories in the park, and for a moment I felt like I truly belonged in this vibrant city. Then out of nowhere I saw her, Lena. She was sitting on a bench by the path reading a book. I didn't know why, but something about her immediately caught my attention. There was an almost eerie familiarity in the way she sat, the way her dark hair fell just below her shoulders, and the way her eyes seemed to scan the surroundings as if waiting for something or someone. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt a sudden strange pull. And then I looked at Jack. He seemed to stiffen when he saw her too. His face, which had been relaxed and open just moments before, hardened into an unreadable mask. He didn't say anything, but I could feel the change in the air. He shifted his gaze to me, then back to Lena, his eyes narrowing slightly. It was a small moment, barely noticeable, but it didn't go unnoticed by me. I could sense the tension in his body, the unease in his demeanor. I hadn't seen Jack act like that before, and it unsettled me. "Do you know her?" I asked, my voice a little quieter than usual, though I wasn't sure why. Jack didn't answer immediately. Instead, he seemed to struggle with something, like he was debating whether to tell me what was really going on. His eyes flicked back to Lena, and for a brief moment it felt like the world around us had slowed down, could almost hear the distant hum of the city, but everything felt muffled, like we were in a bubble of silence. After a long pause, Jack sighed and nodded slowly. "Her name's Lena." He said, his voice softer now, almost reluctant. She's someone I used to know a long time ago." I stared at him, confused. There was something in his tone, something more than just casual acknowledgement. The way he said it, the way his body seemed to tense at the mention of her name. It was as if she was more than just a name from his past. There was a story there, a story I hadn't been told. Before I could ask more, Lena looked up from her book and caught our eyes. Her expression softened immediately, a small smile tugging at her lips. She stood up gracefully, and for the first time Jack's mask cracked slightly. He smiled back, but it was a tight, strained smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Jack," Lena said, her voice light, but with a hint of something deeper, something more personal. "It's been a long time." Jack nodded, his words caught in his throat for a moment. "Yeah, it has," he replied, his voice betraying an emotion I couldn't quite read. Then, to my surprise, she turned to me. "And you must be the new friend Jack's been talking about," she said with a knowing smile. There was something oddly familiar about her, like she already knew everything there was to know about me. My stomach churned slightly, an inexplicable sense of discomfort rising within me. I hadn't expected this. The last thing I wanted was to be caught in some complicated web of Jack's past. Lena's gaze lingered on me for a beat longer than necessary, as if sizing me up. And in that brief exchange, I realized that I wasn't just looking at a stranger. I was looking at a person who knew Jack in a way I didn't. Someone whose presence shifted the air around us. There was history between them, unspoken, tangled, and complicated. I felt like an outsider in that moment, a third wheel in a conversation I hadn't been prepared for. "Hi," I managed to say, offering a polite smile, though it felt forced. I'm new here." Lena's eyes softened, but there was a flicker of something recognition, perhaps, in her gaze. "I know," she said cryptically, before turning her attention back to Jack. "It's good to see you again." As she walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, more than I had been told. And as Jack stood there watching her retreating figure, I felt a strange shift in our friendship. Something unspoken had just passed between them, and I wasn't sure if I was a part of it or if I was only being drawn deeper into a mystery I wasn't prepared to solve. As the weeks passed, I found myself more and more at ease in the city. The unfamiliarity of New York, which had once overwhelmed me, now felt like a challenge I was ready to face. With Jack's friendship and guidance, I began to build a life here step by step. What had once been an isolating experience was now filled with small moments of joy and discovery, and I felt a growing sense of connection not just to the city but to the people around me. One chilly evening, as we strolled through Greenwich Village, the streets buzzing with life and the glow of neon lights, Jack shared something that made me pause. We had just finished dinner at one of his favorite spots, a small, hole-in-the-wall diner known for its unbeatable comfort food. Jack was never one to boast, but there was something different in his voice that night. He looked at me, a soft smile on his lips, as if gathering the courage to say something important. He began slowly. "When I first met you, I saw someone who was lost, someone who needed to find their way. But I think over time you've done more than just find your way around the city." He paused, his gaze thoughtful. "You've shown me something too." I blinked, unsure what he meant. "What do you mean?" I asked. Jack smiled, a little sheepish. "When I first moved to New York, I thought the city was a place where you had to be tough-guarded and self-reliant. I didn't believe in relying on others, trusting others. I kept to myself. But watching you, how you came here, started over, and trusted me when you had no reason to, it reminded me of something important. That kindness, that willingness to connect, it's powerful. It's what makes this city and life in general worth it." I was speechless for a moment. It was the first time someone had ever said something like that to me. It felt humbling, like I had unknowingly done something good for someone else simply by being open to the world and the people in it. "Thank you," I whispered, not entirely sure how to express the gratitude I felt. But before we could talk any further, a group of strangers passed us by. One of them, a woman with a big, bright smile, stopped and waved at Jack. "Hey, Jack," she called, walking over to us. "Good to see you. You guys going to that open mic night later?" Jack turned to greet her, his eyes lighting up with recognition. "Hey, Sarah." "Yeah, I think so. We're just taking a walk." The woman Sarah looked at me with a friendly gaze and offered a warm smile. "Nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you from Jack. He's always talking about how great of a friend you are." My face warmed a little. I wasn't used to being talked about like that. Sarah's words were simple, but they felt like a testament to the bond Jack and I had developed over the past few weeks. A bond that had turned from simple companionship to something more meaningful. "Jack's been showing me around, helping me get to know the city," I said, smiling back at Sarah. "It's been amazing." "We're lucky to have him around," Sarah said with a wink, before she waved goodbye and continued on her way. I turned back to Jack, the warmth from Sarah's words settling in my chest. I could see now how much Jack meant to the people in his life, how he had built a network of relationships based on trust and kindness. His world wasn't as isolated as I'd initially thought, and in some ways it was a reflection of the changes I had gone through as well. That night, as we walked back to my apartment, I felt a shift within myself. The city that had once felt like a maze filled with strangers and challenges now felt like a place of infinite possibilities. I could finally see the beauty in its chaos, the charm in its hustle. But more importantly, I realized that it wasn't the city itself that had made the difference. It was the people. The connections I had made, the kindness I had received, had transformed everything. And Jack, in his own quiet way, had shown me that the heart of New York wasn't just in its towering skyscrapers or bustling streets. It was in the people who made it their home. People who, like him, had the power to change the lives of others through small but meaningful acts of kindness. As the days turned into weeks, and those weeks into months, I found myself becoming a part of the rhythm of the city I explored on my own now. But I never forgot the stranger who had once guided me through the maze of New York. And just as Jack had once shown me, the way I started to pay it forward, offering help to others who were just as lost as I had been. It was my way of continuing the cycle of kindness that had been so generously given to me. In the end, I realized that it wasn't just about finding my way in the city. It was about creating connections, offering kindness, and being open to the unexpected surprises life had to offer. And in that, I had found something more valuable than any map or guidebook could provide. I had found a home. As I look back on everything that's happened, I realize how much I've grown, not just as a person, but also in how I view the world around me. New York City was no longer the intimidating, vast place that swallowed me whole. It had transformed into a place full of faces, each one with its own story, its own contribution to the incredible mosaic of this vibrant city. And those strangers, people like Lena, Jack, Sarah, and others I met along the way, had become my anchors in a world that felt at first so foreign and cold. In the beginning, I had been afraid to trust to open up to anyone. I was overwhelmed by the noise, the rush, the chaos. But now I understood that the city wasn't just a physical place. It was a network of connections, a community of individuals who, despite their own struggles and stories, were willing to reach out to make room for someone like me. The simple act of a stranger offering help, of taking the time to show someone around, had ignited a chain of events that changed the course of my life. I had gone from being a stranger in a new place to becoming a part of a greater story. The memories we create with people, whether they're close friends or those we meet by chance, are the ones that truly shape us. And in this city, I've learned that it's not the landmarks or the skyscrapers that stay with us. It's the moments, the connections, the unexpected kindness that we share with others that create the most lasting impressions. These people, these strangers who crossed my path, had no idea what an impact they would have on my life, just as I had no idea how deeply I would be affected by them. As I walk through the streets of New York, now I don't feel lost anymore. I feel a sense of belonging, a sense of connection to this place and its people. I've come to understand that being lost doesn't mean being alone. Sometimes the most important part of finding your way is discovering the people who will walk with you, even if just for a little while, through the unknown. And those are the memories I'll carry with me forever. Memories of strangers who, in their own way, helped me find home.